Is your diet plan the reason you're stuck with a skinny fat physique? Or is it your workout plan? Over the past 5 years, I've studied over 140 skinny fat men, and most of them were making mistakes that was holding them back and stopping them from seeing results and kind of killing their gains. So today I'm going to show you 3 of my clients and cover the main mistakes that they were making. And they're going to show you how to fix them so you can avoid hitting those mistakes and speed up your progress to see insane results much quicker. Now, before I cover these 3 clients and what they struggled with, it's very important to know that nothing will change unless your calories are set up correctly. So I have put together a free nutritional blueprint which you can download in the bio. Make sure you grab that because it doesn't matter what mistakes we fix here. If the nutrition's not covered, you just won't get anywhere. So I'm going to start this off with my client Shane. Now, Shane's biggest struggle is that he wanted to lose his belly. It was affecting his confidence, and despite playing lots of sports and doing lots of gym classes and lots of cardio, he was still stuck with his belly, and it didn't matter what he tried, it just didn't seem to shift. He hired a personal trainer which just took him through some circuits, some cardio, and getting him on the treadmill and box jumps, all that kind of stuff, which is fine for burning calories, but it's not necessarily fixing the skinny fat physique. And then he also used to do the fat burning classes 2, 3, sometimes 4 times per week. So he was really active and doing a lot of cardio, but despite his efforts, he wasn't really getting anywhere, which caused him to be very frustrated. Now, the clear problem here is that his diet wasn't too bad. He was still eating a lot of protein and kind of in a calorie deficit for most of it, but he was kind of plateauing where his body was just adapted to what he put it through. This is what most men do when they think about losing body fat. They do a lot of gym classes, a bunch of cardio, and just try and eat less. Now, the issue with this is if you're just doing cardio, you're not necessarily gaining muscle, you're not changing your body's composition, and you're basically just spending calories in a short term. So let's say you do a gym class for 30 minutes and you burn 250 calories. Great. But if you're not getting stronger over time and you're not advancing those workouts over time, you then hit a plateau. So your body's not going to change because it's perfectly capable. Yes, you're fitter, but you're not necessarily changing your body's appearance. So the main mistake here is that he's doing too much cardio and not enough resistance training. So he's not necessarily building any progress or building his capacity to burn more calories and sustain it in the future. So once Shane kind of hit that wall, got frustrated and tried a few PTs, but got more of the same, he reached out for some online coaching and we dived in, and immediately the first thing I got him to do was more resistance training. So we kept it really simple with Shane. We did 3 resistance workouts per week, focusing on basically a pull push leg split. That way he was able to hit every single muscle group and easily progress with his strength. And then over time we would tweak the training to make sure that he's progressively advancing and overloading. And the problem this fixed was that instead of going to the gym and doing 30 minutes of cardio and spending 250 calories, he'd go to the gym for the same amount of time, but he would get stronger, add more reps, overload his muscles, and also burn a lot more calories per session. But not only that, because he was training with weights and resistance, he then burned more calories in the recovery when he was sleeping to repair his muscle tissue from the workouts. So it meant that he was burning more calories per session and total throughout the week, but he was also getting stronger and adding muscle to his frame. So it was easier for his body to continue to lose body fat and avoid hitting plateaus. Now, the reason I chose this first is 9 times out of 10, I get on a call with someone or I speak to someone about why they're struggling with their skinny fat physique. And the first thing they tell me is they're doing lots of cardio, they're going for a run every morning, they got a Peloton bike and doing lots of cycling, or they do the local fat burning classes. You know, they could do a lot of cycling, playing badminton, and these things are still great. I'm not saying don't do them, but if that's all you're doing and you're trying to lose body fat and gain muscle, you need to add some resistance training in there as well. So the simple fix that you can apply to this is if you're currently doing a bunch of cardio or you're not doing any resistance training at all, start by following a very simple resistance training routine. If you're super busy, you can do an upper body, lower body split 2 days per week. You could do a pull push legs. You could break it down into muscle groups, do a chest day, a shoulder day, an arms day, whatever works for your schedule. As long as there's some form of progressive overload with resistance, you're going to be able to lose body fat and gain muscle. Of course, providing your nutrition is on point. Did this with Shane. We did a pull push legs. We tracked it every single week. We tweaked it and adjusted it around his body type and his genetics so that he was able to see progress every single week. And then he was able to lose his belly, build up his arms, build up his chest, and lock it in with the same amount of time in the gym. So the next one is going to be Reese. You've probably seen them if you've watched any of my other videos. One of the best transformations I've ever seen, and this was in 12 months. No steroids, no bulking phase. This was purely just in a calorie deficit with the right training. Now, when Reese came to me, he actually did have a personal trainer, and his trainer was doing the same thing I mentioned with Shane. He was getting him to do box jumps, circuits, all the typical stuff, right? I've got my level 3. I know exactly what they're going to be told to do in the gym. Now, for Reese, he's quite a tall chap, but he had the stubborn belly, he had stubborn movies, and he was like, right, well, I want to lose all this body fat, I want to gain some muscle, I want to be more confident, I want to feel good about myself. And he went with his trainer for about 4 to 5 months, and you know, he got fitter, but he didn't really see any changes in terms of his composition. And the main problem he had is he was lacking structure and clarity on his training and nutrition. So he would pay his trainer, show up, do the box jumps, do the warm-ups, touch his toes, star jumps, whatever, maybe a little bit of machine machines here and there, once in a blue moon if the gym wasn't too busy, and that was it. No nutritional support, no clarity on what he should and shouldn't be eating, no structure or progression to his workout plan, so ultimately he just got fitter and then hit a wall and nothing changed. And this is very common when I speak to most skinny fat men, is that they're just going to the gym, showing up, training, going through the motions, there's no plan, there's no structure, and their nutrition is kind of just cutting out food and hoping for the best. But obviously that doesn't work for the long run, because the workouts will get stale and hit a wall, you'll get bored, you'll lose motivation. If you're not seeing progress, you're going to fall off. And nutrition, if you're just restricting the calories for a long time, you're going to get bored, you're going to cave in. Any distraction that pops up, like your friends inviting you out or a family meal or the holidays, something's going to jeopardize it. So what we did with Reese is we wanted to give a bit more clarity and a bit more strategy and structure to his training and nutrition. So we mapped out a routine that was easy for him to stick to around his work schedule, so it was time effective. We also made sure that his food was very precise. Because he wanted to lose body fat and gain muscle, we wanted to achieve a recomposition. So we needed to be in a slight calorie deficit, not too much that he's losing muscle and performance and he can keep up with it, but still enough of a deficit that he was actually losing body fat each week. So we worked out his calories, we set him up so he could track his calories, so it was very, very clear, and then we could adjust them each week as and when he needed to, taking out all the guesswork. And then we made sure that his workout routines were focused on getting stronger in the gym, so he was able to add lean mass, burn body fat, and finally get rid of those stubborn areas like his belly and his moobs. And then for good measure, you know, if he fancied doing some cardio for fun, like a cycle or walk or a bit of hiking, he would sprinkle that in, and it would just help him manage his calories a little bit better and help him sustain the conditioning that he's been building up. So this fixed his problems because it gave him clarity and direction on his plan, but also some form of progression as he went through it. Whereas previously he was just showing up, going through the motions, paying his trainer and going home and hoping for the best. By having a clear training and nutrition strategy, we were able to track it with him every single week, review it and adjust it, and then he was able to lose all of his body fat and gain some muscle and fix those stubborn areas, all within just 12 months without having to go on a bulk as well. So how can you avoid making the same mistakes as Reese? We want to avoid just going through the motions, and we want to have an actual strategy. So what I would suggest is find a workout plan that you can genuinely stick to around your routine. It doesn't have to be complicated. A lot of people complicate the training program. It doesn't need to be complicated. Pull, push, legs, upper body, lower body, bro split, every muscle group once per week. You can find it on Google. If you're really struggling, you can drop me a message on Instagram at Elite Transformation Project, or you can use ChatGPT. We just need a solid workout routine that involves one of every muscle group once per week. Simple as that. The trick is you want to track it each week using your notepad, using an app, whatever it may be, and ensure that there's some form of progression, adding reps, adding weight, and if something plateaus, find a way to work around it or tweak it. And we want to do the same thing with the nutrition. We want a calorie target that is specific, which you can use my nutritional blueprint here to get that set up properly, the same way I set it up for my clients. And we want to track your food and adjust it over time, so they're not eating too little and we're not eating too much, and we're not just cutting out food groups and hoping for the best. If you follow this, you should be able to achieve a similar result like Reese. So we're going to move on to Matt, and he has one of the most common struggles I hear from most men. Doesn't matter what they do for a living or where they live, it's always the same struggle. Now Matt was kind of your typical bloke, you know, work his ass off, get to the weekend, let his hair down, go out for date nights, go and socialize, have a few wines, a few beers, whatever it may be. And the problem with this is if you're trying to lose body fat and get rid of the belly like Matt was stuck with, you're going to be really good throughout the weekdays, but as soon as it gets to the weekend, calories go out the window, right? You go out drinking, you go out for meals with your significant other, a date night or friends, and you ultimately just kind of undo the work that you've worked your ass off throughout the week. So it's not sustainable. You're kind of going backwards and then forwards, backwards and then forwards. So you either end up just getting nowhere, or in most cases going backwards because the weekends or distractions are just too big. And what happens then is because you're not seeing that progress and you are falling off, you kind of just think, screw it, I'll just start next week, I'll start next month, or you just kind of kick the can down the road and wait until the next best time to pick it back up. And then what you realize is every time you pick it back up, you keep dropping it. So you think, well, how am I going to get there? This ain't working, motivation goes out the window, and then you just drop off. And in Matt's case, the biggest thing he was struggling with was some form of accountability and strategy to implement it around his busy life schedule. So after working with over 140 skinny fat men, I've realized that most of them will fall off on the weekends. They'll go, hey mate, my nutrition's great, my training's great, I've been super consistent for 5 years, but I look the same, I don't know what's going on. And then we look at their plan, we track their calories, we look at their workouts, and it'd be like, Monday to Friday, really, really good, solid, food's great, training's great. Oh, the weekend's blank, what happened there? Oh, you know, it's weekend, you know, let my hair down and all that jazz. And that's fine, I do get that, right? We do want to be flexible, and I'll get to that in a minute. That's how we did it with Matt. But that's where most men go wrong. You either got a plan or you don't have a plan, and even if you have a plan, the weekends are ruining it. It normally comes down to two things. You have the best plan in the world, but you're not sticking to it long enough and you're messing up on the weekends, or you're super consistent, but the plan is lacking direction. And in Matt's case, it was kind of both. His plan was okay, he was doing a lot of cardio, a little bit of resistance, but not enough. He was consistent to a degree, but the weekends were jeopardizing his progress. So what we did with Matt is we gave him a simple workout routine that he could fit around his already busy schedule because he likes his badminton, he likes his socials, he likes his running and cycling. So we had basically an upper body, lower body split. And then based on that level of activity, we worked out his calories so that he knew exactly how much to be eating. But we also wanted to make sure that those calories were high enough to be flexible on the weekends while still achieving some form of a calorie deficit. So what we did is we tracked his daily weigh-ins, we did a weekly progress photo, we tracked his workouts, and we tracked his food. So that way the strategy was log everything, review it, and adjust it based on the results he's getting. That way there was a high level of accountability, so he made better choices on the weekends. But then if the weekends were crazy over, we could do something about it to fix it and manage it, or create room for it throughout the week. And this resulted in him losing his belly in about 14 weeks. And to be honest, for a very busy period of time, he started just before Christmas, so we had to fit Christmas around that. And then he had a vacation with his wife where he went away for a few weeks, and he still managed to achieve this transformation. So yes, there's always going to be an excuse not to do it. There's always going to be something going on, but that's the best time to do it because then you learn how to navigate these busy periods without throwing all the progress in the bin and going backwards again. So how can you fix this? Well, I would suggest tracking everything that's important, like your weight, your photos, your workouts, and your calories, reviewing it and identifying any areas that kind of throw you off. So in Matt's case, it was the weekends and it was normally wine or booze. And then how do you fix that? You could either manage it by banking your calories for the weekdays and saving calories for the weekend so the weekly totals still add up correctly. Or because you're tracking and reviewing things, you'll make better decisions by default because you're paying attention to everything, so it's all accounted for. And then if you do go over on the weekends, you know how much you went over by. You can fix it by doing some extra cardio to shave off the calories or throwing in some extra workouts. Either way, if it's tracked and managed, you can progress with it and it makes it easier to stay on track and be focused. And of course, he had the accountability and support from me, so maybe hiring a coach or having a friend to keep you accountable, or just keeping yourself accountable in one way, shape or form by tracking it will massively help you make better decisions. Let me summarize these 3 main mistakes that skinny fat men make. 1 was doing too much cardio and not enough resistance training, so you're not going to gain any muscle and build any progress. 2 was just going through the motions, having no plan, no strategy, and just hoping for the best, which means when you hit a wall, you're just going to get stuck and fall backwards. And thirdly was just falling off your plan too often, whether it's a weekend, a holiday, or some form of distraction, and you need a strategy to make that work for you, otherwise it's never going to stop. Now, how we go about fixing that for these clients and over 140 skinny fat men that I've helped lose body fat and gain muscle, we have a strategy, we track everything for accountability, and then we review it each week to make sure that we're not hitting plateaus. This just takes out all the guesswork. It can be tailored and built around your life and your schedule and your needs specifically. And because everything's logged and reviewed, the accountability is very high, so you're far more likely to stick to it even if you're busy and get distracted a lot. So I'd recommend that you track everything that's important to you, like your weight, your workouts, your progress photos, your overload in the gym, etc., and then review it each week. And of course, this stuff is easier to do when you've got a coach or someone helping you with the accountability. So if you want me to help you do this one-to-one, there is a link you can click down below to book a call with me and see if I can actually help you out. Make sure you grab your nutritional blueprint so that your calories are set up properly, because that will save you so much time. And if you want to learn the brutal truths of fixing a skinny fat physique, you can click this video over here, which could help save you some more time and frustration.